Welcome to the Robinhood Capitalists. I'm your host, DJ Flores. With me, of course, my coach and hopefully yours. And I am so excited because not only is it my coach today, but it's my coach's coach. What?
That's
Coach,
right.
I can't wait to dig him out. But coach, how was your weekend? How's everything?
Everything, man. It was a great weekend. So my daughter is pregnant, so this was a baby shower weekend. She's due in May, so my son and daughter-in-law and grandkids were here, and my son-in-law and daughter were here with and just lots of family and lots of food, lots of cupcakes, and that sort of thing. So it was a good weekend. Good weekend. How about you?
Those are always the best weekends. The dangerous party finger foods, my goodness, it's hard to say no. Am I right? Like it's hard to stop. Maggie knows. She calls me out every time. I think he's heading up. Like, yeah, definitely heading up. But yes, this weekend it was good. It was low key. We had the travel and we got back. So we seeing the family. So we got back on Wednesday. So we were just trying to revive. I think maybe even one of the things I fell asleep at like 8 o'clock.
That's not a bad thing. Everybody good back in the rhythm after spring break is over?
Yes. School's back today for Coop. So yeah, he was. They are they're feeling it. You can tell the long vacation and being off, especially Oakley's first day today is Tuesdays. She has Tuesdays and Thursdays, and whoo, you can tell it was a rough one for her. So she's hopefully early bed tonight, and she'll be okay. But you know how that goes.
Yep. Got to get back in the groove.
So coach, again, I was so excited you were able to pull your coach away from his busy schedule to find time for us and our audience. Mindset. I think the title of our show ended up being like unlocking your mindset, which I thought was so key. But then here's his show. So the king of sales unlocks the secrets of sales mastery. He has on Jeffrey Gittimer tomorrow on and again, our guest is Coach Phil, the Business Renovator. That's his show that you can find him on. But Jeffrey Gittimer, that was literally the third book. I want to say after I went down the rabbit hole, maybe not the third book, but the third author that I kind of gravitated to after starting with Zig Ziglar in my journey of sales and trying to figure out this crazy, very dangerous world of sales and business. And so I started with Zig, ended up Brian Tracy. So obviously you guys are both a part of, got to mention that as well, FocalPoint. So again, guys, if you're looking for a coach, there's no better place to turn than FocalPoint. It's Brian Tracy. That was literally number 2. That's who I started with. And then it was Jeffrey Gittimer's Sales Bible. It was the Sales Bible. It literally, his book connected a lot of things. So I can't wait to see their episode tomorrow. Coach Phil, I will be watching.
Awesome. Yeah. And so when I joined FocalPoint, Coach Phil became my FocalPoint mentor. And a lot of Tuesdays when we finish the show and I'm like, hey, I've got to get to another meeting, I'm talking to Coach. And so he keeps me straight. When I dip into some of that negative type language, he works on my mental fitness. So a lot of times I will tell people he's my mental fitness coach. And he's I can't wait just for you guys and for everybody to hear his story. He's got a lot of really good stories to tell too. So this is going to be a lot of fun for me. I'm really glad. I'm just glad we got him on. This is cool.
I am so glad. And I'm going to let you guys do most of the talking. I want to listen and learn. So guys, get ready for this one. We're going to unlock that mental fitness with Coach's mental fitness coach. Next.
You get one heartbeat song. Take it seriously. This is your masterpiece. Don't forget to dream and taste the colors in the air you breathe. It's your masterpiece. Go ahead and feel it all. Don't stop till it is beautiful.
All right. Coach, you guys take it away. But yeah, Coach, thank you for obviously joining us and being here with us. And so said Daniel.
This is great being with you guys. If you see me smiling and laughing, I had it in the when I was in the green, purple room, whatever room it was. I had everything I wanted. No weight was gained, no alcohol. Okay, there was lots of alcohol consumed, but no calories added. And I'm sober now. It's all great because it's all in our imagination, right? So when I was back there, I was getting this message from somebody that Stacey Lawrence. And he was asking me, is this event live? I seem to be the only one there. And I go, what the heck is he talking about? This event today or one tomorrow? I don't know. It's crazy. Anyway, he was talking about this one because what I was laughing about is I went and opened up LinkedIn to see what's going on over there. And that's where the message was coming from. So I see he's there watching us. Lawrence is there from way over in the UK.
Awesome.
Oh,
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So Coach Phil is in Calgary. So we've got several countries involved here. But Phil, how about tell us a little about yourself, your background, and just tell us your story.
Yeah, I don't know how best to describe me. I'm not formally academically trained, but I've had a passion for how this thing works since, I don't know, as far as back as I can remember. My first mentor that I studied in person was a fellow by the name of Leland Val Vanderwall, who ended up becoming a friend and mentor to Bob Proctor. And Bob Proctor was trying to figure out how he became successful. He went from Chicago to Vancouver, Canada, to I was almost at a webinar, but it was live in person. The internet hadn't been invented back then in the late 70s or 60s when they met there. And at the end of the three-day weekend, apparently they met at the end, and Bob said to Val, he says, "Hey, I'd like to have a coffee with you." He says, "Well, I'm catching a plane going back to Toronto." He says, "Oh, no, I'm going back to Chicago." No, Chicago. Why'd you come to Vancouver? He says, "I was looking for some missing pieces, and somebody said I should go to Vancouver and listen to you, and here I am." So they became friends and mentors. I didn't know anything about Bob Proctor until I was doing his I was just trying to find content from Val because he didn't create very much, and I donated, gave it away because I thought I didn't need this anymore because I've grown. And then I realized I needed to go back and wanted to find it. So I was on a quest to find it, and I ran into Bob Proctor's content through other people. But back that up, you talked about Zig Ziglar. Did you ever get around to it?
I got around to it.
Me too. I was at an event in Calgary. It was put on by Achievers Canada. And one of the speakers that I had the opportunity to hear was Zig Ziglar in his crazy, funny Louisiana, Texas accent. And he said the problem with people is they can't get stuff done because they always say, when I get around to it. So he had their assistants hand out something. I don't have one right here, but imagine a round coin, great big letters, TUIT. So whenever passed out, part of his shtick was, when everybody got there, he said, "You got no excuses. You got to round to it. Now go to it." So he was pretty funny. But I was doing that for a long time, looking for different people. So you mentioned in the green room, Brian Tracy. I first met him again early on, decades ago, when he was delivering the Phoenix seminar in person at a hotel by himself. And I swear he didn't have a note. He was amazing that he could do that whole weekend with no notes and delivered it with confidence. And he's not overly enthusiastic, but he's very concise when Brian speaks, and it really makes a lot of sense. And then other people like that, like Zig Ziglar, I followed him, Jim Rohn, people like that had come before us had some great magic. So all of that synthesized and is how I got to where I is. I have another favorite mentor who helped me take complicated psychological babble, no offense to the profession, but to put it into simple English so that even I could understand it and leverage that kind of content. So flick back, flick up is an easier way to say I can't even think of what they call it in psychology. So flick back, flick up. It's leaning back on your past successes and bring it forward and turning the extraordinary into the new ordinary with less stress. I learned that from Lou Tice. And when I was going through my philosophy of learning from others who learn from others who learn from others. Like people that impacted Jim Rohn, there was a fellow by the name of Earl Schoaf, who was a mentor and teacher to Jim Rohn, and really kicked Jim in the attitude, and other people. And one of the people that Brian Tracy stumbled across, now I didn't hear this from Brian, but I did hear it from somebody who I met way back in the days when I was learning how to sell, and I took up selling cars. And one of my sales manager at the time said, "Hey, Gilkes, you like this stuff?" I said, "What stuff's that?" And he says, "This personal growth." I said, "Oh yeah, love that stuff." So I changed my shift, gave me a ticket, and that's where I met Brian Tracy. But the guy who gave me the ticket was Bryce Smith. And Bryce Smith was an up and coming, he's very successful today. But when I knew him, I thought, I didn't feel that I could speak to him because I felt I put him up here somewhere. Anyway, decades later, I went and bought him breakfast at Denny's and we had a chin waggle. And in that conversation, I learned that Brian Tracy was inspired by one of my favorite mentors, Lou Tice. He went down to Seattle to meet this guy, which is where Lou used to be. And from there, Brian's career in the training space grew and prospered from there. Unfortunately for him doing those sort of things, we've all been impacted and inspired by those guys. We get to share that content with the people we interact with. Boy, that was a long spiel, wasn't it?
That was awesome. And you went into some things. So Bob Proctor, I have to say, so the guy, Dan, shout out to Dan, but so Dan Dugan, the guy I did my first podcast with, he had a tie with Bob Proctor, and we ended up, Bob, crazy story, a guy we had on the show, Brian Byro, he's a motivational speaker, he ended up, got his start because of Bob. Bob, I guess he tells this funny story, Bob reaching out and about his book and stuff. But it was, so you mentioned some names that, oh my goodness, those were all of my secret mentors, and now I get to have you guys here talking to me. So keep going. I'm good. I'm here to listen.
So you've talked to me, DJ. We've talked, sometimes very long time. So just imagine when Phil and I get on a call, we can take a 30-minute call and stretch it to a couple hours if we're not careful.
Yeah.
And so some of these stories, and like Lou Tice, it was Coach Phil that introduced me to Lou Tice. I didn't realize a lot of that, and I really had never heard of him until then. And so that was a lot of interesting things. But Coach Phil, tell us this. You mentioned selling cars, and you've got one of the kings of sales, Jeffrey Gitomer, on your show tomorrow. Tell us a little bit about that history of sales and sales training that you've been a part of.
Okay, sure. So I got into, out of high school, I got into work. And I worked as a delivery boy. That was probably my first gig, and I didn't know much about selling, I thought. But one of the things that Lou taught me was to have a reflective thinking journal. And the reason for that was if you can capture the trends of our thinking, the good, the bad, and the ugly. He said, collect it all and then go back and reflect on it and look what's relevant. What do you want to change things, those kind of things. And in that process, I learned how to create. I heard it from a number of different people. I now call it the 100 PSL. And I first thought that I can't use that name. It sounds like the glue that they use, what you buy from the big box store. So I went down and checked. It's not PSL at all. It's something else. It has a P and maybe an S in it, but that's it. So PSL stands for plus success list. So 100 plus success list. And that was born out of my wanting to embrace change and make change easier for myself and others. So I started off, we all are all salespeople. We get it taught out of us for some crazy reason. The box-shaped schools, when I was going to school, we're teaching us to be quiet, not to speak up and being ridiculed for making comments. So that kind of takes the passion and the desire and the questioning, which is what proper professional salespeople do. They don't tell, they suggest or ask questions and find out if there's an issue, if there's some aspiration or a pain point that people are looking to achieve or avoid. And we as sellers can help solve a problem and give them solutions to that, to let them choose. We cannot make anybody do anything. Those people are the snake oil salespeople that lie and don't tell the truth and make up stories just to make a buck. I'm not about that, and neither are the people that I train. I even hate the word pitch, unless we're talking about soccer or football, English football, or in baseball, the pitch. Pitcher pitches a pitch of a certain kind because he wants to do what to the batter?
Strike him out.
Trick him, right? So pitch is like trickery. That's my perception of it. I've got pushback from a lot of people saying, "Well, you gotta pitch. You gotta give your pitch deck." And I went, "Yeah, okay, whatever." Pitching is not selling, in my opinion. Presenting and like Brian says, be a doctor of sales. And proper diagnostic provides a opportunity to prescribe proper solutions. So to go back to your question, Stacey, about how to get into sales, the first thing I sold was chocolate bars. I have an older sister, and she was in high school, and I wasn't. And I like chocolate. And we were a blue-collar family with 5 kids that mom and dad were raising, and they often were working 2 or 3 jobs, mom and dad. And so my sister knew that I would probably go and sell. So at that age, you can use the cute kid clothes because people like kids more so than they do as we become adults, because then the dynamics change. Anyway, I sold chocolates, and my commission was a chocolate bar. For every box I sold, I got a chocolate bar. It was those triangular ones from Sweden or Switzerland, Toblerones or
Toblerone,
yeah, they were awesome. So that's where I first started, and then I started a landscaping business again for the same kind of reason. A business is kind of maybe an overstatement, but I wanted money, and parents said, "Well, if you want, what do you think we are, made of money?" All of that dialogue. So I don't know where the crazy idea came from, but I said, "Can I borrow the lawnmower?" And I went knocking on doors and cutting grass. So for a couple of bucks, that's how I made some money. So that's where I was really selling, and I didn't really think about that until I got tapped into Lou Tice's recommendation of a reflective thinking journal. And it caused me to think about all the things I learned along the way. And I put them in, the good things, the bad things, and the things I wanted to do yet. And it was a powerful way to get an idea of what my thought processes and things that were important to me were. And it was a game changer. All of these people have had an influence on me along the way. They've been part of my tapestry, but putting that reflective thinking journal to the task, that visualizing yourself at your future best really works. How I figured that out was this reflective thinking journal. So when I was 18, I was kind of going to work, kind of going to school, kind of had a girlfriend, kind of had a job, kind of playing hockey, not focused on any one of them, but and I was kind of in a rock band. I wish my story could be from a marketing point of view. I sold my car, and I wished I had bought a guitar, because I sold my car and bought a guitar, became a rock star. Isn't that brilliant? That would have been good if I bought a guitar. I sold my car, bought a keyboard. It just, anyway, it fell flat. But in the van, going to a gig, playing with the band, I'd be thinking about making saves as a ice hockey goaltender. And now I didn't physically move, but in my imagination, I felt the changes. I had the best year ever. I was the best in that age group, in that bracket, in the city. We won the cities. We went to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I put together a program. We sold ads. I got the team to sell ads. So we helped fund ourselves to go to Tulsa. So why do I bring that story up? I forgot about that and how powerful that was until I started doing reflective thinking. So the show is Unlock Your Mental Fitness and some strategies around that. Well, do a reflective thinking journal, capture all of your successes, big and small, recall them all, and focus on them. Now, I'm not suggesting you focus on the thousands that you have, because we do probably have that many, but not many people have those written down. But even if it's only 100 or 101 or 60, if we focus on the things that we did well and the lessons we got along the way, it builds us up. When I focus and take time to do that, I actually feel it in my chest, in my pecs, of how amazing I am. Now, me saying that publicly sounds like I'm bragging. So I don't do this normally, except for in a coaching session. So I'm treating this like a coaching session. So if you think back to what you've done, DJ, let's just get you to think about what's one thing that you've done when you were younger, much younger. What was one thing that you did that you're kind of stoked about? Maybe a race.
Yeah. I mean, it was probably just pitching. Pitching a game. I mean, I could think of a few games where I
Just
had
pick
a
one.
pitch. Okay. Yeah, I got one.
Okay, how old were you?
Probably 12.
And what game were you in?
It was just a rec league, so it was just summer ball.
Baseball?
Yep, baseball.
Cool.
Yep.
And what brought that into the forefront?
It was just a funny story. It was so we had two teams that we both played on the same team, and we had enough players at that time to separate the teams, and I lost the straw. And so all my friends got to go on the team that I was from, and I had to go with the younger guys. We ended up killing it, but yeah, it was the one game that we got to play those guys, and it was pretty fun. So
And did you win?
we did. We did. I pitched. Yeah.
Look at the smile on his face, Stacey. He's kind of like he's right back there right now, right? Are you?
That's exactly right.
I was smiling on the mouth, but they were so pissed off. No. But yeah, no, it was good. It was fun.
Yeah. So you for just a few seconds, were you back there?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Imagine if you had a list of those, and you ruminated on those. Well, if you want to make change something that seems extraordinary and turn it into your new ordinary, do that process or not. It's really been a game changer for me.
I love now, Lou Tice. First off, you got to tell me spell his last name, because I'm going to deep dive into all of his stuff. This is the first time I've heard of him, so thank you for that.
I was going to say, can I leave the camera? But my video coach says in my head, you cannot take your eyes off the camera. So I have to get out of my chair and go get a book. But his last name is just like rice, but with a T.
Okay, perfect.
And the book that you could probably find, because he didn't write a lot either. He wrote 2 and co-authored a third. But the one that you probably easily find is called Smart Talk.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of video left that I can find through Google or anywhere else for Lou either. So a lot of what you get from Lou is the way he influenced so many other people, because he had a lot of influence in the space.
Yeah, kind of places where he influenced people was Ireland and helped them stop killing each other, the Protestant Catholics. My neighbor is Irish, and they say they're revitalizing that because the cycles have changed. But for a while, they did have an impact and helped them see things differently and reduce that kind of activity. With the apartheid, which was happening, even though the U.S. was against it, he went and did it because it was the right thing to do and helped them transition. I met a woman who made it to the U.S. from Bulgaria, fled Bulgaria because it was a communist country at the time, showed up in Florida with only basically the clothes she had on, and somehow got to stay in your country. And somewhere along the way, she found Lou. Somehow, I can't remember exactly how that happened, but I met him for the first time, in the first and only time was in 2011, the fall, in September, and she was there. And she told me her story. And her story was, when she met Lou, he said, how would you like to help Bulgaria go from communism to capitalism and help? She said, well, I can't do that. She says, no, not by yourself. He says, but let's put an entree there. You go back there, talk to the leaders, and invite them over, come to the ranch. So Lou Tice started out as a high school football coach, and not a very good one, in Seattle. That's his story. I'm just telling you what he tells everybody. And he went from there, from rags, like growing up in welfare without a father, and being the man of the house, and being a guy who had an influence on millions and millions of people. NCAA athletes, the Oilers. Did I say that out loud? I say that quietly because that's our nemesis, our rival. And right now they're in the playoffs and we're not, so they're better than us. But he helped them for 5 years. Peter Pocklington, who was the CEO president of the Oilers at the time, ended up becoming a board member with Lou Tice, and Lou had done some things in the background quietly. Nobody hardly ever knew about it. I didn't know about it until I started following what he's what he does. He helped reduce recidivism in your prisons. I met one of the people, Gordy Graham, who was a hardened criminal who then worked at leading Fortune 500 companies. A former, prisoner out in the world talking and teaching because Lou mentored him. So I've been mentored by Lou, but by his programs and his curriculum that I've been studying since the 90s is when I stumbled into it.
Awesome. So the reflective thinking and the 100+ success list. When you first brought that up to me, you said, write them down, 100 successes, 100 wins. And my first reaction was, I don't think I've ever won 100 things. So if anybody's thinking that might be listening, what's your answer to coming up with 100?
And don't beat yourself up. Just give yourself grace to do it, because you've done more than that. What's really sad is and I guess the first time I ever heard of it was Jack Canfield. There's another interesting story, what I discovered. And I had the opportunity virtually to talk to Jack and ask him about Lou Tyson and Val Vanderwall. It was fascinating to talk to somebody who actually got to hang out with those guys. But one of the things that Canfield talked about in one of his books, Aladdin Factor, I think. It's either that one or I can't remember the name of the other one. I have them all. But anyhow, he said, in order to be successful in life, to live the life you want, you need to be, this is okay, you need to be an ask hole. So you got to ask. So what he was talking about in the book, he said he heard this guy was coming from Seattle down to LA, and he was going to be in LA for a while. And Canfield wanted to be able to pick his brain. So he phoned this guy, which was Lou Tice. He says, hey, I understand you're coming to LA. Would it be okay if we picked you up in a limousine and drove you to wherever you wanted to go? And all we want in payment is to be able to pick your brain while we're in between sessions. And Lou said, yes. So Lou's had an impact on a lot of people that hardly people know.
Wow.
He's helped me be a better person, a better coach, a better athletic coach. When I was in a relationship with a lovely lady and her two kids, her one child was molested at a very young age, and she had some difficult things. And we, as a family unit, were dealing with all sorts of strange stuff. And I thought, wow, I didn't know I was signing up for this. But we used some of the things that Lou taught us in that space to be able to be better at it. And one of the things that I learned from Lou, well, one of the other things, was if you want to give yourself, build yourself up, again, this goes to mental fitness as well, is when you're doing something right, just say, yeah, it's just like me. Just go, that's just like me. Anchor it with a physical. And if you're in a place where there's nobody other around, you can become more vocal. Or if you're not afraid of being taken away in a white jacket because of the loony farm, you could do it publicly, but might not want to do that. And then when you find yourself not doing what you say you want to do based on your journaling that you've done, and you go, well, that's not like me. I'm better than that. The next time I intend to, and then paint the picture of how you want to be. So you're changing the way you're talking to yourself. Again, it helps with the mental fitness to help you grow into what you want, what you've decided you want it to be. So two simple little things. Stop it. That's not like you if you were going to correct somebody else. So Stacey, stop smiling so much. That's not like you. I wouldn't do it for that, really. But if he was talking to himself in a negative way, I would say, stop it, Stacey. You're better than that. What I see in you would be, and then I paint what I would expect him to live into based on what he's told me he wants to do. And then when he's done things right, I say, well, it's just like you.
Yeah, I'll occasionally send Coach Phil a message of something good, and he'll just hit me back. That sounds just like you.
Yes.
So powerful.
Yeah, the 100 wins was and I was reaching down earlier to get mine, but I remember I had it out, so it's actually back over there on the table. But when something good happens, and I'll tell Coach Phil about it, he'll say, it's probably a list somewhere that could be added to. So Coach, it is a living document, right? It's not something that you just go through a reflection one time. We do this all the time.
Yeah, I'm not putting this up there for you to.
Oh, we lost him completely. Oh, hold on, he's back.
You really did like the green room.
You wanted to go back there.
So what I was going to grab was my phone, just so you can see the title of that thing. What does it say? 100+ successes. That's mine.
100 successes. I love it.
Right.
Do
So
you have a little note section?
what's that?
Do you have a little note section on your phone that you add daily? Do you add daily to that?
Not daily all the time, but daily sometimes, and then clumps a lot of the times weekly. And I first start though by writing it down because it gets connected better. And then once I've satisfied that that's what's there, then I'll transfer them digitally or type them onto my phone so that they're easy to read. I actually stumbled across another app that I can write in, and it converts it to text to text. It's amazing.
Yep. With the Surface Pro, I got the cover that lets you write on it that makes it feel a little better than writing on the screen. And even with my handwriting, it's pretty good with OneNote to convert it to text. And my handwriting is not great at all, but it figures it out pretty good. So with the whole idea of being a mental fitness coach, because you spent a lot of time in sales and teaching sales, so you had that career as a sales trainer, but you've always loved studying the brain and how that works. How did you transition or maybe marry the two? I guess the question is, from everything we know, how did you get to where you are today?
I forget who said it. Practice. That's how do you get to Carnegie?
How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
By studying and being passionate about it. Selling is nothing happens in the world without somebody selling something. It doesn't have to be a product. It doesn't have to be a service. It could just be an idea. You want to rally the troops to where's your favorite place to go? Romania. I can't even say it today. And help them out, right? So you've got to convince people that that's a good idea and come and help you with your cause. That's called selling. And do you get paid to do that?
I might as well throw it up there for you.
Yeah. Yes. Now, how about this one? So you've got the hockey playing career, the hockey coaching career. What is it that you can learn from playing and coaching hockey that translates over to business?
Oh yeah, well, the only difference is a score sheet. One's a financial statement, the other one's a game sheet. Everything else is the same because you're dealing with people. You're inspiring people on the ice or in the box or at practice to grow into their potential and to do it in a way with ease and flow. So it's what I do in the commerce world. And when you've worked in a team, you individually, like individual sports like tennis and golf and swimming and things like that, those kind of sports, you can be part of a team, but a lot of it's based on you, particularly, men's or women's singles tennis versus a team game like football or basketball or hockey. And the adversity and the successes, you celebrate them, yes, individually, but as a whole, you're better. So that's what you can gain out of that. So if you might be the only salesperson in the company that you're working for, but there's some other people involved with the company that you're working with most of the time, that are part of the whole process. Not everybody wants to go out there and be the frontline conversation person, but they have other traits and skills that support the whole sales process. So I think there's a lot of parallels in team sports and commerce and business.
Yeah, I do too. DJ and I talk about that a lot, of how they do parallel one another.
Yeah.
So again, we're unlocking mental fitness here. I know most people have heard of EQ, but your journey has kind of led you to something called positive intelligence, PQ. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how that works?
Yeah, it's actually ties nicely into athleticism, but you don't have to be an athlete to do it. You can just be yourself. And out of the three of us, anybody here speak to themselves? Yeah, everybody's hands went up. You might have some smart aleck in a larger crowd. I don't know. Do I speak to myself? I don't think I speak to myself. We all speak to ourselves, whether it's out loud or not. We're speaking all the time. Again, going back to Lou Tice, he suggests that we all speak in 3D. First, there's a thought, then there's a picture, and then there's a feeling and emotion. And the more feeling and emotion you have to something, that's the fuel, the drive, the passion. So we get more thoughts, more ideas, then we get more, what does that look like? The picture gets more clear, it gets more vivid, maybe becomes a movie image instead of just a still picture. And as you do that, you think about it, and now the emotions get jacked up, and now we're thinking about who I could call, who I could enroll, who I could ask for support from. And that just keeps cycling through. So Lou says that's the self-talk cycle, and we all do it. And on the out, once we get to, and it'll turn on the creative juices for us to take action. If you just think about it, in the movie The Secret, there's a lot of great things in there. The one thing that they don't emphasize enough or properly is, yes, think about it. Yes, get emotionally connected to it, but then take action. I can't remember where I saw this, but recently I saw it was a meme, and it was based on 5 and 95. Lower achieving individuals are 5, 95. So they're 95% of the time thinking, planning and thinking and planning and procrastinating, and 5% acting on it. High achievers, there's flipped it around, it's 95% get into action and 5% planning. So they do a lot of course correcting along the way. And that's kind of how, when I think of people like Brian Tracy, Lou Tice, myself, Proctor, Val, all of them did the same thing. And the other nugget in around that from Lou Tice's world is, if you know what you want and why you want it, and stifle the how, unless of course I added this caveat, it takes you towards where you're trying to get to. So you get some feedback, you move into it. And maybe you need to get more clear on the end result that you're looking for, what you're asking for, what you're trying to build. Once you get clarity, you get clearer on it. I met a guy who's interesting. He looks like he's from the Middle East. Well, genetically he is, but he was born in Switzerland, grew up in Montreal. When his mom and dad divorced, his mom went to the Middle East, back to Egypt, where she originated from. And Remy didn't want to be part of what his father was going through. And he left on his own at 12 and went to Florida. He's a billionaire today. Now, his road was not paved with gold at all. He's lived on the street. He got because of the color of his skin and what perception people have of that, because he looks Middle Eastern, right? He looks like a terrorist. That's his profile. So your federal government went after him. He spent millions of dollars to defend himself, and survived. He didn't want the felony. So now, because of that, he's a billionaire, because he's not all just about making money. I went to an event last fall in September. There was about 150 of us that were part of this group. That he's written a book called Can You Really Think and Grow Rich? So that's his book, because he studied when he was 12. He had a copy of Think and Grow Rich, and he devoured it. So when he got to the point where he needed to either go to college or get a job, he decided, if I go to college, I'm going to get into debt, and then I'm going to go to school for 4 years, then I'm going to get a job to pay off my debt, and I think I'm going to just do what I've learned from Napoleon Hill's work. That's what he did. So by the time he was 18, he was a millionaire. By the time he was 19, he lost it. He didn't understand contractual law. So he had created key cutting kiosks and I forget which national chain it was, but they allowed him to stay out front of their stores, and he kept on putting his money back into getting more kiosks and expanding across the country as he was just barely an adult. And when they saw what was happening in the margins that he was making, they gave him a cease and desist order, and all of this equipment and all that he couldn't do it anymore. So there was a whole bunch of lessons along the way. If you're interested in finding out more about him and studying him, you can join his Facebook group called Can You Really Think and Grow Rich? It's real simple. And I think there's a YouTube channel as well. I don't know if that's open to the public, or if you need to, I forget how you get in there, but if you're interested, you can shoot me an email and I can send you how to do it, or I can give you guys the methodology and you can all join there. There's a plug for Ramy. But he's really generous. Originally, his idea was getting as many people that he could. He thought he was shooting for about 500 people, didn't make it. And the idea was that the 500 people could offer up an idea for a business that you could scale, put on the stock market. And then that would be a case study, and he would be our mentor. We could watch whoever was participating. And for everybody that did that, you got shares in the company. Well, the company never happened because nobody had a great idea that was worthy of putting in the stock market. They had great ideas to save the planet, make things greener, save pets, all of those wonderful things, but nothing you would sell shares in. So what he did, he pivoted. And how he pivoted was, he said, if you're disgruntled, dissatisfied because you came here on the premise that we're going to do this business and coach you and you learn about it, you can have your money back, but stay anyway. And he had viewers from virtual viewers, and he had people in attendance. And I know some people that got their money back, and they gave it back like the next Monday. But he had a bar, he had food, he had entertainers, he had coffee. It didn't cost anything more than what we invested. And so, because he's the type of guy, he doesn't do a deal. He doesn't win on the deal until you've been looked after. So what he did was, he was launching another company called EV Mobility. And it was taking EV vehicles and putting them in hotels. And with an app, you could, instead of going to the airport, renting a car, going to the car place, check it out, sign your life away, feeling anxious, oh my gosh, have I paid way too much money? Then you're responsible to drive it safely. You're in a wreck, you've got to look after that. You got to fill it up with gas and take it back. Well, with his system is, you look for a hotel that's got the EV Mobility cars in it. So you're likely going to pick those cars first, or those hotels first. And you only need to use the owner responsible for the car when you use it. So you go to the hotel, take a Lyft, a cab, or Uber. They take you to the hotel. In the hotel, you stay, do your thing. You decide you want to venture out and see the city. You go to the Uber down in the garage, pick it up, drive it away, bring it back, drop it off, carry on. It's all insured. That's all I have to do. So he's been promoting that across the U.S. So we all have shares of that for the amount of money we invested to be there as attendees. So can you really think and grow rich? I think everything starts with a thought, doesn't it? So everything, mental fitness.
So, Coach, I'm glad you went there. I'm going to go back there. Coach, I don't know if you had a comment, but you said it a few times, and before you said you put it into your phone, into that list, you write it down. I truly believe, like, there is power, there is secret power to either saying it and other people hearing it, or writing it down with the idea that other people see it. And that does give it a little more life. Is that why you write it down first before you transfer it to the phone electronically?
The reason I write it down is to etch it into the neurons of my brain. If I'm thinking about typing, I'm less connected to the words I'm writing. If I write, it becomes it's more automatic, and it actually is making connection with the dendrites and the neurons in our mind. That's what I've learned. That's what I've been told. I follow a neuroscientist. She's from Scotland, lives in Montreal, and she's on the spectrum, but she's a fascinating woman to listen to about all of this. And she says the same thing. I took a copywriting course, not to become a copywriter. I found out I took it to confirm I don't want to be a copywriter. It takes a special kind of talent. Now with AI, we've got some resources that help with that, and make it a little easier actually make it a lot easier, because now I've gone from somebody who doesn't like writing to almost love it. I write an article a month. I'm writing a series of articles right now in my newsletter. It's about my conversations with Lou Tice. He's not with us anymore, but and there's not a lot of content available with him out there. So I'm doing it for two reasons. And the second one was I became aware of it accidentally, I guess, sort of, because I decided that it would be cool to have a conversation with Lou Tice. And I can't do that because he's not here anymore. So by doing the research and recalling and reflecting on what I've learned and how I've applied it, and asking, with AI's help, what would Lou say? And then between AI, myself, and what I remember being taught by Lou, we've come up with a conversation. So there's going to be at least 12 of them. 3 of them have been written right now. One's published in my newsletter currently. And they're not long. They're just short sound bites. Not sound bites because I don't speak, but very short articles, easy to read, but simple.
So where did you get the idea of the conversation with somebody that's no longer with us?
Yes, I love that. And please share.
Probably my life experience, but one of the things Napoleon Hill talks about, he had a board of directors when he was doing his research, and one of the things he talks about in his writing, the Think and Grow Rich and the Success Principles, is to have a board of directors. And what he did with the board of directors, he had them in his imagination sitting around a boardroom table, and he would talk to them as if they were alive. That's probably part of where the idea came from. And I'm really fascinated with the way Lou taught stuff. He's not a rah, in-your-face kind of approach to coaching. Up until now, I've been a Seahawks fan. I'm not an avid NFL football fan. But the lineage was that Pete Carroll, the former head coach of the Seahawks, that's why I'm not sure if I'll be a Seahawks fan anymore. We'll see. But that was the connection. It was Lou Tice was Pete Carroll's coach.
No
and that's
kidding.
why I became a Seahawks fan.
So you know what's wild about that, Coach? So one of my kind of go-tos in this mental world is, so he created and partnered with Russell Wilson, also probably a very close mentee of your coach that you're talking about. But Trevor Moawad, and they created Limitless Minds together. And he obviously worked with Nick Saban, but Russell Wilson was a very close friend. So yeah, and he taught a lot about mutual thinking, and so that was a huge connector for me.
I don't watch basketball much, and I happened to catch something on our national sports network here on the weekend, and I forget exactly what they called it, but it was about a whole bunch of different. Well, it was the changes of black and whites playing football or basketball together, being segregated, not segregated anymore. They were integrated, and this one coach with the University of Houston, I believe it was. I think that was the school. He did things differently. He didn't care about who you is. He wanted you to show up as you were. And that's one of the things I liked about Pete Carroll and Lou Tice. They wanted you to do the same thing. They didn't want you to change to be a better athlete. And one of the things that Lou talked about, he says, I'm not going to change who I am just to fit into your world. Either you like me or you don't like me. I'm going to be authentic. So 3 words that I would share with everybody that's watching today or in the future is to be authentic, progressive, and effective. That's right out of Lou Tice world. And that's what Pete Carroll did. Thing I liked about Carroll's way of coaching was, if there was somebody on the team that'd been in the team for a long time and just out of tenure thought that they could sit wherever they wanted, the coaching staff would ask the guys to sit somewhere they have never sat before. And then he would watch and see what their reactions were to the change they just asked them to take. And if they were open to it, they could stay on the team. And if they weren't, they were going to be traded and moved. And they did that a lot. So they took ordinary men. A lot of them were low, not even drafted. And they found them and turned them into the team that they were. Now, I know there's some people who would chastise some of the things that Pete did, but overall, when you think of the culture he created in that space, and when he was in LA with the USC, right? They helped reduce gang violence in LA. And Pete was on the street when he's not coaching. There's videos of Pete talking to gang members. So he did that utilizing what he learned from Lou. And when he moved to Seattle, he did the same thing there. And Lou was in his back pocket helping him out.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome.
If he gets another head coaching gig, I'll probably be loyal to him, not to the Seahawks. But right now he's still a Seahawk, so I'm still there.
I share a similar story with you there. So I'm not a huge college football fan, but ended up secretly a LSU fan because of the coach, which then I ended up kind of just Les Miles, I miss you. But the Mad Hatter, I loved his wildness. I loved his craziness that he pulled when he defeated Ohio State. I was being from Ohio, I'm a huge Cleveland, but I was not a huge honk for Ohio State. I don't know what it was for that, but yeah, I ended up a fan more of Les Miles, and then married into a LSU family. So it just stuck. But yeah, crazy enough.
Yeah. So this all these things, so much of this Phil and I've talked about, and it's so fun to hear and open the book back up. If you were Phil, looking around at the environment the way it is today, who's a voice maybe that's new that we haven't talked about?
Mm.
Somebody that's maybe new on the scene that you find intriguing.
Yeah, new. Well, I guess that's got to be the former one of the top performing FBI agents in the world, and his team. His company's called Black Swan. And matter of fact, I don't have it here. I just picked up a book. No, it's not nearby. I can't go get it. It's written by a professor out of Harvard, and it's written for lawyers. And the reason I have the book is because chapter 2 in this book is something that the Black Swan team are mandated to devour. So I got it yesterday, and I started reading chapter 2. I didn't devour it yet. I think I'm in the first 15 or 20 pages of it. Written by Manuk. I forget his first name. If I knew I was going to be talking about that book, I would have had it close and be able to show it to you. But this was not premeditated. This is raw, interactive, right?
That's how this show goes, Coach.
Yeah.
Don't worry. I think that's one of the things that Coach Stacey's dad loves most about this show. He never knows where we're going to go.
So the book, I can't even remember now the name of the book, but I do recall what I read a little bit in the chapter 2. It's all about empathy and assertiveness. And there's 2 different examples. There's the first example that I was introduced to in the writing was a man and a woman in business, and one's assertive, and she's thinking that she needs to buy him out. There's just no future of the 2 of them working together. He's out gallivanting and not paying attention to the numbers and the details and doing all that kind of stuff. So he's a sales guy talking to people and promoting the business, right? And it's a catering in a restaurant. So he's out promoting the restaurant, and she wants to grow the catering, but doesn't think it could work with him there. So she wants to buy him out and get his hat. And he uses tactical empathy to ask questions and doesn't get hijacked by her assertions and her accusations. So that's kind of where that story goes and ends. The lessons in there is, if you listen to people, really listen to people, not that you agree with what they're telling you, but you're hearing what they're saying. And then the next story, a case study, was about a deli owner, and he was tired, frustrated. He had 27 months left on his lease. At the end of the year, he was typically netting about 30 grand after all of the expenses and all of this, what he could do and what he couldn't do. And then the icing on the cake was, first of all, before the icing on the cake came, there was another restaurant across the street that wanted to move across into his strip mall and be 2 doors down. And when it was becoming the lease. So he had a strong case to challenge that and probably win. So he hired a lawyer because he got a lawsuit because the landlord wanted to force his hand. So he went to the lawyer, took the lease. The lease was read and looked at by the lawyer, and the lawyer says, yes, you have a very strong case. However, the cost of doing the litigation and the dealing with the lawsuit and the time may not be worth it. So she asked him a lot of questions to find out what was really going on. And what got to his dominant motive for doing what he was doing is he would like to go back to school, get a law degree. But with where he was stuck. He couldn't do it. Wasn't making enough money. He was tired of running the deli, and he needed to be able to create hot meals. And his lease prevented him having that kind of equipment in there. So fast forward to the end result. The deli across the street moved in. He got his gear to cook hot food. Plus, he could stay open longer because now he had a restaurant, not just a cold sandwich deli. He was able to get, with the lawyer's help, get options every 5 years to renew. And he was able to build something that could be worth something. So 15 months later, he sold the business, very profitable, had some assets and clientele, and he went to school. And it came out of tactical empathy. The lawyer asked a lot of great questions, really dug deep to find out what was going on, saved him a lot of cash and heartbreak, and it was a win-win-win. So that's why I'm a big fan of this guy who told me to buy this book, through watching some of his content on YouTube, and that was Chris Voss. He wrote a book called The Never Split the Difference, and he's a former FBI hostage negotiator. Just for giggles, how successful, if you know the answer, you're not allowed to respond, Stacey. So this will be for you, DJ. How successful do you think hostage negotiators are from the U.S.? What percentage of success?
I would guess 95%.
You're pretty darn close. You're a little bit high. It's only 93. That means 7% of the time it doesn't work. Somebody's going to lose a life.
Yeah.
However, 93% of the time, they're very successful, and the way they do it is the black swan method. And the reason they're called the black swan, have you ever seen a black swan? They do exist, but they're
I have not.
Yeah, they're actually popular in Australia, apparently. But the idea behind black swan is to be different than everybody else. So when they negotiate, or whether it's for sell a new car, an old car, a house, an idea, save a hostage, empathy, tactical empathy. You're not agreeing with them, but you're really paying attention and listening to what they're saying. So much so, the story that it's in Never Split the Difference, the book by Chris Voss. I think they were in New York City, and it was a bank robbery, and they had hostages, and they were held up in a space, and they weren't sure what was going on. They couldn't get any communications. Nobody was, on TV, they throw the phone and they talk. There was no talking. So they just kept on asking and talking and not threatening at all. And this went on, for quite a long time. SWAT team didn't have to come in and eliminate anybody. They opened up the doors and came out, and they said, "Why did you come out?" "We felt heard." So Derek Gaunt, I think I said his last name. He's a partner with Chris, a former police officer as well. And he said, even with what they're doing, they're selling prison time.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting people to give up to go to prison. And they do it with this whole process. It's a game changer. It reminds me of another American. He wasn't a negotiator, although he probably negotiated. He's passed as well. Bill Bartman. Have you heard of him?
That name doesn't ring a bell.
His claim to fame is he was an alcoholic, and he overcame that. He married the girl of his dream, even though people said that will never happen. And he went to law school and became a lawyer, even though people said that won't happen. He was a billionaire as well. And what he did was he bought bad credit, the debt for dollars, pennies on the dollar. And instead of going after people with what we typically know, intimidation tactics, he didn't do that. And he wouldn't hire anybody in his company that had previous experience in debt collection, because he didn't want them to come with their bad habits. So he would reach out to people and he'd say, "Hey, Stacey, man, I heard you went through some bad times, and you had intentions, right, to pay off the debt. You lost the car, but you still got this bad debt hanging on you." And they would treat people that way and ask questions. And anyway, billionaire, he collected a lot of bad debt.
I mean, you're giving gold when it comes to sales. If anybody wants to excel in sales, practice and learn tactical empathy. I mean, you have to listen. when they feel heard, there's no sale to be made. You're just fixing their problem. That's all it is.
It's and never split the difference Never Split the Difference is awesome. And if you sign on to Masterclass, it's worth it just for Chris Voss's version for what he does on negotiating on the Masterclass platform.
Just in case people don't know what Masterclass is, maybe explain what that is.
Yeah, well, it's an online learning platform, and it has lots of different voices out there. There's interesting stuff from outdoor survival to
Astronaut.
leadership to cooking. If you love brisket, Aaron Franklin's got a series on there. So, I probably enjoyed that one more than anything ever because I love Aaron. But it's a good platform, and the videos are all high quality. Now, Coach Phil, I know we got to wrap this up, but I heard you kind of say something back to DJ.
Back to DJ?
Yes.
Yes. Explain what we're doing here.
What we're doing here?
Yes.
Yeah, so what we're doing is just feeding back what we've heard without too many words. In Chris Voss's world, they call it mirroring. We actually were taught that by Brian Tracy. And there's another thing that's a process that Chris does a really good job of explaining and encouraging us to do. And that is to mirror and use like 3 words out of something somebody said. Not much more than that. Like, don't make a whole sentence of it. And I was trying to do that here with this technology a little bit. I think Stacey caught me doing that. It seemed to me like you caught me doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, you doing that?
So he just mirrored that back, and I did what Chris Voss calls a label. Seems to me like you were trying to get him to talk about.
Yeah, these techniques are so subtle and so powerful, and he talks about tone of voice at different times, using different language. Coach Phil is the master at saying, "Would it be crazy of me, or would it be insane of me to ask?"
Well, there's 3 styles of questions, right, Stacey? There's a closed question, which I just asked one, right? I just asked another one, didn't I? Those require a yes/no response. And then, so that's a close, directing it to a specific answer, which is they're needed in certain places in the conversation of the sales conversation. In order to get there, though, if you think like a funnel, it's not skinny at the top, it's fat at the top. So in order to have that build the rapport and the trust, we need to open up the dialogue. So we use open-ended questions. So you would ask questions. So what brought you guys to putting on this podcast? So that you would go down that path, explain where it came from. That's not a yes or no. And then eventually when you wanted to either confirm, you could use a close-ended question to get confirmation. So open-ended, closed questions. And then the third one is a no response question. Now, I heard that from probably a whole bunch of different people, including Brian Tracy, not with a deep dive into why it's important to do. And it's important to do because there's some kind of magical connection when people feel that they can say no to stuff. They're less threatened. So I often ask, and I'm trying to come up with, oh, no, I'm not trying. I have been coming up with different ways of saying the same thing. The thing is that I hear it in my head more often than anybody else hears it. So I'm getting tired of the repetition, but nobody else is because they're only hearing it from me. Well, Stacey hears me frequently, but not as frequent as I hear myself. But one of the first ones I learned from Chris was, would it be crazy, maybe even ridiculous of me to suggest that you guys be guests on the Business Renovator in a future episode, and I can reciprocate this conversation?
Would absolutely love that.
So is it what you'd say? No, that's not crazy. You would say, yeah, that's crazy.
No, it's not crazy.
Not crazy at all.
So when you say no, that means we're going ahead. And there's some magical neurological connection, neuropsychology, which is where Chris said this comes from. Something I picked up just recently was psychology of soft skills. I'm sorry, Chris. I'm forgetting the name of it. But the other side is a hard skill.
The neuro-linguistic?
He didn't go there. Neuropsychology, no, but then it's psychology, right? It's even part of what positive intelligence is based their PQs on. Positive intelligence is a way to develop your mental fitness, and that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But in there, it's based on cognitive behavior psychology, positive psychology, neurology. That's the one I'm struggling with today, guys. I could go look at my effort.
Oh, this was awesome. This was so awesome. Thank you so much, Coach. You wanna wrap it up?
Well, so first, I guess the last thing we always do is give you a chance. Where can folks find you?
Yes.
Well, right there on the screen, coachphil.ca is a good place. Or you can go watch the Business Renovator on YouTube or catch an episode on LinkedIn. That's my guest that's going to be there tomorrow. Interesting how I got connected to him. If you look back at the dots, as Mr. Steve Jobs says, you can't join the dots moving forward, but you certainly can do it looking backwards. So what Lou Tice said is in that reflective thinking journal, what have you done? What did you do? What's your language to yourself? Is it serving you or hindering you? So that's connecting the dots of where you want to come from. So you'll learn tomorrow if you watch us or on the replay how I got connected to Jeffrey, and his phone number is actually in my phone. I'm not going to show it to you. It's there. And that's I actually used the, hey, would it be crazy, maybe ridiculous of me to invite you to be a guest on the Business Renovator? And he says, hell no, be great. Reach out to, and that's here we are.
That's so awesome. What time do you go live tomorrow?
In Eastern time, it would be 11 a.m.
11 a.m. Eastern, the Business Renovator. Everybody check it out.
11 a.m. Please go subscribe. He does have a YouTube channel, The Business Renovator. Please check it out. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Coach, this is awesome. We have to have you back on. Obviously, I could talk sales all day. Sales, I think, was the rabbit hole that led me to being so obsessed with the mind. So I want to get into more of that with you because I feel like that's what led me to just being so obsessed and wanting to understand people. Because I've seen and sat in front of so many, 25 years of sales, you see a lot of people. And so I literally, I can't wait to have you back on. This was amazing. Coach, great guest. This was so much fun. Now I see why he's your coach. So again, guys, if you aren't signed up with my coach, then you're crazy. But please like and subscribe this episode so you can hear more from him. Guys, I'm using kind of Coach Phil's mentality a little bit. I'm getting free advice because I'm giving him a platform to share his advice and then having amazing people like this guy. So I don't have to have secret mentors anymore, but I have them come join me. And so please, if you're finding any information, any wisdom from these amazing guests, my coach, please like, subscribe, share. Napoleon Hill, it's the mastermind. The more minds we can get together, the ability that comes from that. And so, again, thank you guys. Thank you so much, both coaches.
Thank you.
You guys are cool. And yes, thanks, Coach. Feed the good wolf, y'all.
Always on the red eye. This time around, it's not even about getting paid. I'm just